Thank you very much. Now I would like to ask you about Jeremiah's predictions and data. Did you bring them along? Quetzal says everything is complete. The biblical, handed down, data and stories are in truth based on legends, deliberate lies and falsifications, and on a deceitfully produced chronicle that is incorrectly arranged and wildly imagined. This also applies to the dates of the ancient and genuine prophets Jeremiah, Meier, Elijah and Enoch. Converted to the Christian calendar of today, the true dates of these prophets are the following. Prophet Enoch, born on February 3, 9308 BC. Died on January 1, 8942 BC. Son of Cretan of the Pleiadian. Prophet Jeremiah, born on February 9, 662 BC. Died on September 3, 580 BC. Son of the high priest Hilkias at Anathoth. Prophet Meier, born on February 7, 772 BC. Died on May 5, 690 BC. Son of Amos at Sidon. Prophet Elijah, born on February 5, 891 BC. Died on June 4, 780 BC. Son of Josias at Gilead Thisbisha. Elijah was flown to Srinagar/Kashmir in India by a beam ship on April 7, 842 BC. The prophet's times of births were the following. Jeremiah at 11:23 am. Meier at 10:44 am. Elijah at 11:02 am. Enoch at 11:01 am. Billy says thank you. But what happened to Jeremiah's predictions, which in fact are not prophecies? Quetzal says I had to translate them into the German language of today's understanding. They read now as follows: when the prophet of the new time spreads his teaching in the new time, the time of the great transformation has begun. It will start in the second millennium and lead far into the third millennium after the birth of the prophet Emmanuel. And when the second millennium ends and the third has begun, human beings will be blinded by gold and material values to such an extent that they will be counting tatters silver coins in all countries everywhere. And even when human beings look up at the stars in the sky at night, they will see only gold, gemstones and thalers. They will build cult places for cults to worship and will pay homage to a non-existent god as well as saints who are human beings canonized by human beings. The places for the cult's worship of a non-existent god will become sites for merchants and money changers. The lenders who lend various acquisitions, temporary dwellings and many inventions for a fee will become avaricious usurers. The judicial authorities will administer justice unlawfully, and no longer punish the wrongdoers for their evil deeds but reward them by imposing penalties that are insignificant. Thus the huge fire of injustice will smolder and burn, and will lend its helping hand to fornication, whereby it is inevitable that every city and town will be a place of fornication, which is degenerated in the worst form of inhumanity. And also the children and their children will live a life of degeneration in the worst form of inhumanity, and will become a cloud of blazing heat that burns and destroys everything. They will raise the old flags dripping with blood, and spread terror, and leave uncountable deaths. The powerful of the world will ruthlessly abuse their power, and allow the killing of innumerable innocent human beings. They will transform the building blocks of life into death-bringing weapons in order to destroy nature, and to kill human beings in vast numbers. When the new time prophet appears, the unreasonableness of human beings will become rampant in such a manner through the procreation of descendants that the earth, the sky, the oceans, the forests, the prairies, and the deserts, as well as the mountainous regions, will be populated to such an extent that no human being is able to take one step unnoticed. Consequently, quarrels between each and everybody will occur. The human being will assert his power and command over nature and life, and at the same time he will aspire after the creation's power, because in every respect he will tear down all boundaries and will ignore them. But everything will not continue forever, for it will turn around in time and work against the human being. Like a drunken ruler he will suddenly begin to shake and tremble, and will run in fear like a blind horse. He will ride himself like a saddle horse, spurring and whipping himself onwards on a path into chaos and confusion, at which end it is dark, desolate and fatal, and leads irretrievably into a deep abyss. It will be the time when gigantic buildings and towers reaching up high into the sky are being built in all countries of the earth. And human beings will live and work in these towers and buildings. There will also be cities of gigantic proportions where human beings eke out an existence, thus fertile fields will be left empty. But buildings and towers will be built on these fields because space to house the living will become increasingly in short supply. And except for the individual's own law and that of individual groups, not one true law will exist any longer. Thus many who live in cities will turn into barbarians and terrorize the honest and upright human beings. There will be so many human beings in this new time that there will not be enough bread for everybody, and also water will become increasingly scarce. But a crazy foolishness will overcome the human being who will fanatically pursue many games, yet soon dissatisfied, he will take chances at various other games whereby life becomes the crazy fool's plaything. These death-bringing games will be like a deadly fire when kindled, and when the human being carelessly puts his life at stake for them only to satisfy his crazy foolishness through means which are meant to increase his excitement. When the prophet of the new time appears, and the third millennium after the prophet Emmanuel begins, very many human beings will be suffering from hunger and thirst. While some human beings lose their lives due to extremely high temperatures, many others will turn blue due to extreme cold, and will be plagued by great waters. In general, the human being deteriorates into being afraid of events occurring in nature, and many would like to see another world. And many lapse into fear because the world's powerful rulers degenerate in a worst form of inhumanity, and wage wars in a viscous manner in order to seize countries and mineral resources. They will be the hypocrites who are audacious enough to claim they act in the name and command of a god, in order to consolidate their greed for power. At the time of the prophet of the new time, the human being will fall victim to various god cults and consequently will completely lose his inner freedom. The cults will become large groups of dealers, which will be established and led by human beings who are self-appointed to be godlike. But in truth, they are only dealers of lies, fraud and illusions, and instill their dangerous and deceptive poison into the human being, whereby he becomes a believer of the unreal, and becomes dependent on it. However, in the end the poison is extremely dangerous, for it destroys the thoughts and feelings, whereby the human being becomes indifferent and callous towards himself as well as towards other fellow human beings. And those who mingle this poison with their thoughts and feelings to the point of fanaticism will get to be like wild beasts. They will threaten their fellow human beings, kill, rape and rob them, or blackmail and torture them. Therefore, this kind of human being will degenerate into the worst form of inhumanity to such an extent that life for all other human beings will turn into a daily experience of never-ending horror. When the prophet of the new time is in the midst of accomplishing his work, the human being's goal in general will be to achieve as much pleasure for himself as possible. And man and woman will be engaged alike in this pursuit of pleasure and will degenerate in the worst form of inhumanity. And by outdoing each other, the husband will repudiate his wife as often as possible in order to remarry. And he will willingly acquiesce to the homosexual and heterosexual nature of whoring, thereby he will bring fatal epidemics to the world, and to all humankind. The woman will be just as unrestrained as the man, for she will lustfully walk through the alleys of cities, and will take any man coming along. Yet, not only will whoring be beyond measure but also lack of reason and ignorance, which will also encroach upon children. Thus, not only adult women will give birth to children without knowing or naming the father, but also children will give birth to children. Thus, there will be no father or master who will be able to instruct, teach, educate and guide the respective child. All decency and respect, all sense of reverence and all tradition, as well as every custom and honor will get lost. the human being becomes estranged from the human.